After a severe head injury forced Danny Schneider to end a promising rugby league career with the Penrith Panthers, he threw himself into competitive natural bodybuilding. On a friend's advice, Schneider entered his first bodybuilding competition at the age of 19, which coincided with his first week at the New South Wales Police Academy, and he took out the overall bodybuilding title. More recently, Danny has claimed the IFBB Pro League Australia Open Bodybuilding Light Heavyweight National title. How's things been, mate?
Oh, really good, man. Hey, I don't know. It's been a good couple of years, but this year feels even better, bro. Like, I don't know, the kids, I feel like the older they're getting,
Yeah, the more
I don't
they
know if it sounds
appreciate
bad to say out loud, but the more I'm liking it, you know what I mean? Yeah. The little personalities and that come out, and just some of
it.
the stuff they come out with is funny, bro.
How old are the little ones at the moment?
So I've got my oldest, she just turned 9 last week. Then I've got a 7-year-old, Isabel, and then my boy's 4, Alex.
So he's getting into the Panthers Guernsey and getting around the field.
Oh,
Are you going to get him into the footy?
yeah, he's just kicked off, man. I've actually just agreed to. I'm going to coach his league team.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
playing for because I'm from St. Clair, the Comets. But if you ask him, he's playing for the Panthers.
yeah.
He's already been signed. Yeah, yeah.
My dad did that when I was playing for the Harbour Devils. Some
Ah,
of my
yeah,
fondest memories are when he was coaching the team and all your mates around and that kind of thing. You just got to be careful you don't give any favoritism, otherwise you get some of the parents offside. Or
I've
I'm
heard.
sure
I've heard this, man. You know, a lot of people that I've spoke to recently, I told that I was doing it, and a lot of them have said that. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
maybe I've got myself into a bit of into a pickle here, but nah, I'm keen, man. Like,
yeah,
just because he's so excited, you know how it is. He's excited, so
yeah.
it G's me up.
Some of your best memories, I think, will come, like his best memories growing up will likely come from that kind of thing. The camaraderie you get from, the
Yeah,
father and son bonding, not just like at home and that kind of thing and through the gym or whatever, but, out there on the field and, you
yeah.
go through the highs and lows together. So I'm sure it'll be awesome.
I'm looking forward to it, man. So they've just been training now. Games will kick off, I think next month. But yeah, we're keen,
So
keen.
good. It must be exciting with the Panthers. I've spoken to so many people on the podcast so far, on the Normals podcast, but also I think just the way they've galvanised the community out there, Western Sydney. It's amazing. So all the young kids have got someone to aspire to, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's funny how
and
we.
you know what tops it off? They're actually like back in the day. They never really used to keep. I don't know. I felt like they never used to hold on to their juniors as much.
Yeah,
So that's even more exciting now. They're
yeah,
keeping the young guns and that from there, and then bringing them right through to first grade. So when it's coming up to even when it comes up to like say New South Wales, and it says that they're you know how it comes up with their junior
yeah,
clubs they
yeah.
played for. It's cool, man.
But now that they've sort of lost Crichton, they've lost a few of those players to the Dogs, and
Yeah,
now they've lost Jerome to the Tigers. So it's kind of like
mm,
as you build that success and the players are worth more now, it's hard to keep them all under the salary cap. But like I was saying there, father and son kind of bonding between you and your son. Looking at what the Cleary boys have done, it's
oh
been amazing, man. And to go to that level of the sport, I think,
yeah. What a feeling that would be for Ivan, eh?
yeah,
Like even last year, and I mean all of it together. But what a feeling being able to coach, and then your son's like just performing in the way he does, and under pressure.
yeah.
Can't even imagine what that'd feel like after that game. Like they expect, like I'm talking about the grand finals and that
Yeah.
specifically.
Amazing, yeah. And his brother, I think, made his debut for the Warriors as well. So there's another
I
clear.
seen that. I didn't actually watch the game, but I did
Yeah,
see. Oh, I heard. Sorry, I heard that he's a gun too. So
yeah. Well, it's a bit
how
like the
crazy.
Trebojevic brothers, right? The
Pardon?
The Trebojevic brothers,
Yeah.
Jakey and Tom, and then the others coming through. So it's just like they're sitting on a. Hopefully, they can secure him at the Panthers. Wouldn't that be great? Like as Cleary
Oh,
getting into his later years, bringing his brother through, would be amazing. So
yeah.
But the reason we touched on the Panthers there, I think it's an important point, is because it actually has a large, it is a large component of your story in
Yes.
how you eventually found yourself in bodybuilding, and
Yeah.
that's what I want to kind of get into today. A lot of your story, um, isn't necessarily throughout the pursuit of bodybuilding itself, but more so what happened in the lead up to how you got
Yeah.
there. So, did you want to take us back to, I guess, when you had that playing career in the Panthers, what your kind of life looked like then, and how did things change so quickly?
Oh man, I was only young. I was so from the 14s. I'm sure Penrith they start picking their development squads and things like that. So 15s development, and then the year after that, I think the ages might have changed now. Then they go to under 16s was Harold Matthews back then, and so that was the first big competition where they picked the players from all the local squads. They picked a training squad, and then we played and everything. And then in Harold Matt's under 16s, we actually won the comp too, which was amazing. I had to now. I've got a name drop now. I had Wade Graham in the team.
Wow, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. We had another guy, Lachlan Cood. He ended up playing a lot of his career
I
overseas
remember
as well,
him.
but he played some first grade in that. Um,
He played for the
but
Panthers.
yeah, man, I had so 15, 16, 17s, 18s. Um, you never know what could have eventuated. Um, but like say, even back then, Wade Graham was in our team. He was playing up an age too, so he was always a level above. He just had a good footy brain.
He sort
But
of
for me
bounced
myself,
between 5'8" and lock as well. Like he was a big body. Hey,
yeah. But when we were younger, not so much. He was kind of like he was my height, and then out of nowhere, just spruced up a bit. And he had that good footy brain, and just that mongrel in him too.
yeah.
And he's a good bloke to finish it off. Yeah. So that was the 16s, and then yeah, upwards from there. I guess league taught me, and being in that environment there taught me how to lock in, and obviously the training side of things and the competitive. Because going into the squads, you had say they'd pick three or four in your position.
Mm.
I was a centre, but I ended up playing wing for. I was on the wing for Penrith. So they'd pick four or sometimes even five in your position in the squad, and then they had a big preseason. From there, you had to perform in your training and things like that. So even in the early stages of my bodybuilding, I used to just pretend in my head that I was battling off just with the reps and that. Say I was doing squats, and I'd pretend that I was fighting for the position. I still remember thinking about. I don't do it so much now, but in the earlier years, that kind of helped me with the mentality of switching on and just being competitive. Because as you know, in the comps, it's just you. You're not really versing anyone in the gym. That's on the day when you get to the show. That's when you're versing people. But I'd kind of pretend in the reps and the sets in training that I was kind of competing with someone in them too. Does that make sense? But yeah, just
But yeah, so I guess looking back then, what did rugby league? You sort of it taught you the discipline, the consistency, the work ethic. You see a lot of the guys now when they are in the gym, they like you do need to have quite a wide set frame and enough muscle mass on your body to hold up in first grade, particularly given how quick the speed of the game is now and how physical it is. So, like the strength training side of things is a big part of the NRL and like being
yes.
successful in the NRL. So, was that something that you like latched onto then, the strength training? You really had a passion for it, that side of the like the preseason training, and that was that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, man. I kind of even so to the running side, to the strength side, but it was like that's why I think it always comes back to mentality. So even in the beep tests and things like that, I was so competitive. And now I don't want to. I don't want to sound like I'm talking myself up, but even in those, I always made sure I was at the top, like pushing. I always wanted to win. Say whether it was the sprints or which is obviously fast twitch. You got to be quick, and then the
Yeah.
long distance. We were doing things like beat tests, and then in the gym we were doing strength and muscular endurance. So we had a thing on the leg press. I think it was double your body weight, how many reps you can get, things like that. Um, yeah, I enjoyed the preseason. Like I think a lot of people kind of dread it.
Shied away from it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I actually enjoyed the. I used to get nervous for it. Don't get me wrong. I still
Yeah.
remember being nervous and that, but I loved it. Eh?
The one thing I wanted to sort of touch on there, what you mentioned about the fast twitch muscle fiber associated with those more anaerobic activities like short, sharp sprints or maybe that plyometric training. Have you kind of taken any of that into your training now, or is it more so just based primarily now around hypertrophy? Are you still doing any of that kind of thing? Like, you know,
Nah, to be honest, I'm not. Yeah,
yeah,
I've kind of easy answer. Nah, I'm not, man. To
yeah,
be
yeah,
honest with you, yeah, it's kind of just all the bodybuilding side. I still do things like stretching, mobility, which all goes back to league. So like I'll do like the static stretching every morning. I do a lot of core work, which a lot of bodybuilders I know don't do.
yeah.
And then before training, I'll do like the more ballistic dynamic type stuff, which again, yeah, it was all back from football, but I've
Mm.
kind of kept that in my training. But in terms of fast twitch and those kind of components, it's
Do you
more
think it's
in the
set a
gym.
foundation for you though? Like I'm
Pardon?
in the early stages, do you think it's set a strong foundation for you
Yeah,
in terms of
definitely.
like movement competency, like just
Yeah.
understanding the body and how to execute movements from a baseline level? Like I'm sure you had some really good strength coaches at the time that taught you how to lift correctly, and that's sort of
Yeah.
helped you now with your bodybuilding.
Yeah, it definitely did, man. The whole thing played a role. Um, but the main thing was the mentality of pushing and being competitive.
Yeah.
The technique side changed a lot because even like we're doing a lot of like say clean and jerks and things like that, which I don't really incorporate anymore in my training. Um, they're all great movements and they all serve a purpose. But for me specifically, if we're asking that, I don't really incorporate them anymore. Early on, I did though. Like I was still doing them a fair bit
Mm.
when I first started. Like my first teenage show back in 2010, I didn't really have an idea of or as much of an idea with the isolation movements and things like that. So I did keep them in, and it all worked. Then as the years went on, you learn and this works, this doesn't work, and then you
Yeah.
kind of mold what works best for you.
I guess it's the one of those things you learn as you go, like the fatigue cost of everything you
Mm,
do. And it's like you could keep those in, but if you consider the specificity of training, like what you're actually trying to achieve is muscle hypertrophy, and all the evidence is based around training to X number of reps in reserve or close to failure,
mm.
with like a
That took
certain
me a lot.
percentage of
That took
load.
me a lot, man, because I love squats. I've
Mm.
always loved deadlifts. It was only like the last few years, to be honest. I couldn't really get away from that because I just love doing them so much. And it did help. Like my best body parts now are still like lower body and then the erectors and all that, which is all from the squats and deadlifts, I believe. I mean, everything else as well, but it's like you just said, the recovery side though, with this your central nervous system. That if I'm banging out 240 kilo or whatever it is, deads for as many reps as I can, and then doing that a couple of times a week on top of everything else, and your body's trying to recover, and then you're restricting calories. It's like
This year,
but
right? You're going back onto the stage. Is that correct?
yeah, I will be, man. Towards the back end of the year, I haven't. I mean, I'm always on with my I still weigh my food and everything every day and all that, but there's this actual show itself won't be till September. Yeah.
And so you've transitioned into IFBB. I kind of want to go through like the psyche and why you switched into the IFBB from the natural competitions. But before we get there, I think it's important we kind of go back and set the scene. So we talked a lot about your early days at the Panthers, but do you want to take us through the actual head injury itself that you sustained, if you remember anything from that match, and kind of
Oh
what you
yeah, yeah.
remember from the following week or so? And I imagine you had a lot of different chats with people close to you and a lot of thoughts about what you're going to do moving
Oh,
forward.
Yeah. That was a tough time, man, because obviously up until that stage, and like I said, you never know what was going to happen. Everyone thinks they're going to end up playing first grade. In my head, I was still thinking I had a chance, and with the mentality and everything,
Yeah.
you never know. But back then in my head, like I'm thinking I'm playing rugby league, and then I had a big head collision with a teammate of mine, where I actually got 16 screws and a titanium plate. So all in my head here is not even real. So the surgery was cut, and obviously you can see a scar there,
Ah,
right?
yeah.
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 So I got cut from there to all the way over here, and they pulled my face down, and then they've done the surgery there. So I was pretty mad that I was able to conceal it like that. Otherwise, I would have had a big scar or something on here,
Yeah.
made my head even uglier. So,
It's good
um,
you're able to laugh about it now. That's crazy.
yeah, back then, man, I was a little bit touchy, especially with the scar,
Yeah.
because as you can imagine, it healed. Like it took a while to heal, and it was a little bit ugly. I had to
Yeah.
shave my head and everything back. But then over the time, you know how it is, man. It kind of ends up molding and making you. Because now I think if that didn't happen, I never probably would have ended up doing the bodybuilding and making it my career and training and everything. So I flipped it into a bit of a positive kind
You
of thing
really,
after a year or so. It did take me a while though, I'll be honest. I was dirty, and then where was I going? From there, that's when I rolled into my first natural bodybuilding show.
but like, talk to us about, I guess, the interim period between suffering that head knock and actually competing on stage. So, like, for someone to go through what you went through and have all those screws put in your head, obviously a huge surgical procedure.
Yeah,
Uh, and and one of the things that I've talked a lot about is the kind of the psychological recovery, not so much the physical, but like if someone injures their ACL, like a professional rugby league footballer, it's not only the physical rehab they have to do, but it's also the psychological element of running out onto the field again at full speed, full contact, and you're really conscious of that knee or that
yeah.
part of the body, and you're consciously thinking about re-injuring it.
So I had the doctors pretty much say to me after that, man, that if I'd copped, yes, they've healed, they've fixed it up, and whatever will end up healing over. But they said that it'll never be as strong as what it was, and I was very lucky because the way where it was pushed back was actually a mil or 1 point something. I can't remember exactly, to be honest, off the top of my head, off my brain wall at the back. So if it
Right.
had gone a little bit like depressed even further, that tiny bit more back, then it would have been on the brain, and I would have been had brain damage as well. So um, then I went and seen another one because I was obviously devastated. Another specialist, sorry, and they said the same thing. Even though they didn't do the process, they said it's not going to be as strong. So like if you get hit there again. So then I was still 18, 19, and yeah, my parents didn't want to. They didn't want to borrow it, and even speaking to them, I was kind of like, oh, okay, got to do something else here. And they said that I couldn't do any. I love training. Like I said earlier, I love training. So they said because of where it was, something to do with the blood and being pushed around the body. I wasn't allowed to do any training for, I think it might have been 6 months or something like that. They said, but I didn't last 6 months, man. I had a gym set and that at home, and I think I done maybe 2 months or something like that, and then I started doing some stuff out the
Mm.
back. And yeah, that's legit where it all started. I had a home gym set up out the back, and I done some training, and then one of my friends from school was close with Gretchy. So Mark helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I went out, ended up, so I was doing some training at home, and my legs were kind of already strong, like built up a little bit from the
Yeah.
footy and training like that. So then I was doing some stuff from home, and then I went with Christian Jeffries. He was from St Dom's as well, my school, and we went out and seen Gretchen's because he was saying to me, "Oh man, you should do bodybuilding competition." I'm like, "Oh, I'd never been to one or anything. I didn't know." And then we went out and seen Mark, and he was in the scene already, and he said 100%. and I'm sure that there was a show that wasn't too far off. I can't. It's thinking about it now. I haven't got it written down. I'm just going off the top of my head, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So the show wasn't too far off, and then he said I should do the competition. So I ended up doing the teenagers. Back then it was IMBA. It's now changed to ICM. My first show was the Mr. Teenage at Castle Hill, and then I ended up going into the show. So I think Mark helped me for like the last 6 or 8 weeks of the prep. I was eating just crazy to think
Yeah.
about. I was just eating normal like chicken schnitzels and but things that I thought were healthy up until then.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was eating like just because it was chicken. Um, and another part as well, I ended up joining because so the last peak week of the for the show, I applied to join the New South Wales Police.
Yeah.
So that for my peak weeks and my first bodybuilding competition, I was my first week down in Goulburn for peak week.
I tell you what, like
Oh,
if you were going to have a week to start throughout prep, you might think otherwise, but I think that would be the best week to start. Do you think or not?
the peak week?
I think because your carbs are sort of, did you do it? You did like a linear load where you were, by the time you get to Wednesday or Thursday, you build up your carbs to about
Yeah,
150, 200% or so. So
yeah,
like
but the issue was, man, the issue
first day or
was
so.
that getting down there. So I was only still 19 years old, remember?
Yeah.
So moving out of the house, getting down there, and then they had a mess hall, so you're supposed to eat from the mess hall there. They had all the food and everything.
Oh, right.
But I ended up sneaking in my own little fridge. So I was already nervous moving out.
Yeah.
I had a mate that from the area that was joining as well. I had him come to the car. It's like we were smuggling something illegal in because I didn't know the go. I didn't want to ask him. I was doing it no matter what. So we snuck in like a little like a bar fridge, and then I had an extension lead for with my George Foreman. So that's what I'm saying. So because they had a mess hall to eat, I wasn't going there at all. I was just kicking back at the room when everyone's gone and they're meeting each other in between classes and all that, and I was just kicking back, cooking my bass of fish and
Rice, sweet potato,
potato. I
sweet
don't know
potato.
why now to think of it. I was carbon on potato and I had nowhere. I had a kettle. You know what I was doing?
Yeah.
I had a kettle for the potato and that's how I was making it.
Everyone's
No
got a
joke.
story. Hey, everyone's got like their bodybuilding story. Like everyone I've spoken to, everyone's got something that,
Yeah.
and it's kind of what you're saying there kind of reminds me of the videos I've watched um, of Ronnie when he's in Texas, Arlington in the 90s as a police officer walking around in his uniform. You've seen
I've
all the
seen that.
videos of
Yeah.
him sitting in the car eating his chicken
Yeah.
rice. Yeah, it kind of
How
reminds
good
me of
are you?
that. But yeah, imagine getting arrested by Ronnie Coleman on the highway. Imagine that. Seeing him pull over and get out of his car.
Now, if he was a cop, I'd nearly do something on purpose just so I could say that it did happen. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think he's isn't he a great ambassador for the sport though? Just the way he's the ultimate professional and you could just see throughout his whole career he just enjoyed every minute of it. Like whether he's lifting
Yeah.
heavy, the eating, all the cardio, like perfect I guess role model for anyone who's in the sport of bodybuilding. Like, aside from all the PEDs and that kind of thing, just pure
Yeah.
passion and love for the sport, right? You could just see it in his eyes, like no one else. He just loved it every minute of
Yeah.
it.
Everything was at 100. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were a senior constable, Fairfield Police,
Yeah.
and you were there for from about 2010 to 2018, correct? So about that 8 year period.
Yeah. Yeah. It was 8 years, man.
And I think I bumped into you at the AMB Universe in the Philippines in 2018, 2017?
2017.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I remember that was when you won your pro card, correct?
I got the pro card 2016.
Right.
That was when I done the
The pro show.
yeah, yeah. So I got the nationals in that 2016.
Mm.
I done a string of shows with ICN, AMB and got those and then 2017 was the first pro show that I entered in the universe.
So what was the feeling, right, when you're in the police from 2010 to 2018, you won your pro card around that 2016 period.
Yeah,
And this was after you went through that head injury, you've had shoulder injuries, you
yeah,
got banned for 2 years from the
yes.
AFC. Mate, the question I want to ask you, how did you persevere through all that to get to the
Oh,
point where you won your pro card and you kept going?
there was some struggles. There was some struggles, man. Like mentally, is that band was a big one too because it was so. It was like obviously it all comes back on me because I took it was like a pre-workout
Yeah.
and it was geranium oil. But at the time, it's different. It's
Right.
different to now because you say it now, you're like, oh, how couldn't you know? It was that same year that it changed over. There was like the 1,3-dimeth, and then
Yeah.
some companies had changed the name on the packaging to geranium oil extract. Now it's pretty well known, and especially because I'm a coach and things I know. But back then, that was the initial transition, and you could still buy it on the shelf earlier that year. It was fine. It was like mid-year or whatever when they actually said took it off, and then everything was taken off the shelves, and then they ended up making it illegal or whatever. And I took it was a pre-workout, man, and then it had the geranium
Uranium
oil
oil
in it.
extract, yeah.
Yeah, and then it ended up popping the drug test.
And so
It,
you took
I took
that
I
like
took it like the day
before you pumped
before.
up, before you
Yeah,
pumped, oh,
yeah,
the
I
day
took it like
before.
the day before. Didn't even need to take anything. You know what I mean? I think I might have been doing my last cardio session, which I don't even do now. The day before, I just go
Yeah.
for a walk or I'll pose. And just in the lead up, and I'm like, oh. And then I had people.
Yourself.
The thing was like, yeah, everyone, because at that stage you're already getting accused of, oh, he's taking this and he's taking that, and then
Yeah.
all people seen was a positive drug test. And then at the gym, closer mate said to me, oh, thingy, yeah, the stories start going around, you know.
Mm.
Oh, he said you popped the drug test for steroids and all this. I'm like, what? I'm already
Mm.
trying to work around it, and then the rumors started. When really it came out, it was. I mean, obviously I shouldn't have done it. It was a banned thing. I should have looked more into it to what it was, but it was a pre-workout. You know what I mean? Like,
It's a hard thing, isn't it? Like I saw Leota talking about how when he was in prison, how he didn't deflate, and all the boys were saying, you know, oh, he's taking gear, he's on steroids. But then when he got locked up, you know, he didn't lose his muscle mass like you'd expect someone coming off their cycle for a period of time.
yeah, yeah,
The rumor, as you say, the rumor mill starts. So it started off as, you know, you've taken a banned pre-workout supplement, and just like Chinese whispers, it goes from one
yeah,
person to the next, and before you know it, everyone in the bodybuilding space around, you know, Blacktown, Penrith, Mount Druitt area
yeah,
is it's changed from banned pre-workout substance to now he's been taking testosterone or
yeah.
growth hormone or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and the ones that wanted to believe it, they won't even ask, "Oh, what was it for?" All they'll hear is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, he popped the test. That's it. He's running with. He's going to tell the next bloke. It's like,
And so I guess
and
the
it's
thing I want to ask you though, mate, is like when you're in the cops at the time too,
yeah,
like how did that transpire too?
it,
Because
yeah, it was fine because it
yeah,
wasn't. It's not illegal, or
yeah.
I just had to let him know that.
Well, I guess more so the reputation. Like
Yeah,
understand it was a pre-workout supplement, but
mm,
like from the bodybuilding dimension of things, obviously things spread a bit more quickly, and people have
yeah,
more of a preconceived idea of what it all means. But like in
yeah.
terms of did it affect your role with the police or your relationships with anyone there or people you were training around or the gyms in your area? And how did you kind of overcome that? Were there any instances where you kind of, you know, you
It,
got quite down on yourself or had to speak up?
Yeah, yeah. That all social media was one where there was a couple of things I can't remember specifically. It's one of those things where you got the close people around you saying, "Oh, don't let it get to you, or the ones that the ones that really matter know what it was, so it doesn't like you shouldn't care about it. And it's easier said than done, you know what I mean? Because you put so much work and effort into, well, obviously prepping for the show. And I'm a man of integrity too, man. I would never do that. That's what was in my head. I'm like, I would never take something that I'm not supposed to take. That I was taking creatine, glutamine, carnitine, WPI, everything that I was able to take. I wasn't one of the fully just off any supplements. I was taking whatever I was allowed to take. But I would never do that, man. You know what I mean? And that's what kept getting me down. And yeah, obviously people telling me things that they thought were going to would comfort you, saying, "Oh man, you can't let it get to you, this and that." But it is, man. It's easy to say, "Don't worry about what other people are saying," and there's actually not letting it
When
get
you're
to
living
you.
it, it's different. Yeah.
Yeah. But I did. I came around, and I guess you just got to stick to your guns, man. Because eventually they were right. I should. It was just that initial phase of going through it all, which I'll admit did get to me a little bit, and then just being able to slowly keep chipping away and ended up coming out the other side. Yeah,
And then you came out the other side. You won the pro card. Did your first pro show in Manila, and then the following year you quit the cops and
yes,
started your own. You went all in on your PT
yeah,
online coaching. But how is that? Like, it's been a big leading up to that. It's been a big handful of years where you've had this band, you've been competing on and off for a couple of years, and then you've quit the cops and you've gone into online coaching. What kind of hurdles did you run into initially there? Was it completely face to face PT initially, or was it because you're ingrained in the bodybuilding space, you already had quite a few clients you were going to prep online?
yeah. Well, I started the business while I was in there, so I had a few prep clients
Yeah.
and I was doing some PTs already while I was still in the police. And at that stage, I'd already had my first order. So I was kind of just balancing everything, man. And then I remember I had a chat with my wife here one night, and I'm like, oh, my clients started building up. Um, and it's not like I didn't like the police too. It was just, I had to decide because I ended up being able to balance and everything. The time I was still competing, I had my first order. I
Mm.
was in the police, you know what I mean? And then I had the other business going. And then I found that I had to start saying no to clients because I just didn't have the time to commit because of everything else that was going on. And then I had to chat with Ash. And that's why I always say um, a supportive partner goes a long way, you know? So she was kind of just like, whatever you want to do, I'll support you. Um, and then I just kind of got in my head that I was going to go for it. So I just decided to slowly I built up while I was still in the police. I did start taking on a few more clients so that when I made the transition, I'd already had a little bit of a base there. Um, One thing I will say there, man, and I've heard other people and all that say it now, but back then I had the same mentality. In the police, you can do a thing called leave without pay.
Yeah.
So I could have at that time, I could have taken a year, still being employed by the police,
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha.
taken a year, and then just sussed out how it went. And then if it wasn't going that good, then I could have stayed in
Back
there.
on. Yeah.
And I had a lot of guys that were in the police telling me, "Oh, bro, why don't you just do that?" And back then, I had the same mentality as I always had. I feel like if I done that as the plan B, then I never would have went all in on my initial plan A. So um, that's why I say to everyone, if you feel like the feeling's there and you love it,
Burn the
I feel
boat.
like, man, you just got to go for it because exactly what I just said then. I feel like if I just did do the leave without pay, who knows? Maybe I wouldn't have put so much effort in that
Yeah.
into the clients and building it up. So I'm like, oh, if it doesn't work out, I can just go back to the police. Well, I just went bang, bang, bang. Spoke to the superintendent, told him, oh, look, this is my plans. This is what I want to do. He even said to me, oh, have you thought about this and that? And I said, yeah, I have, but this is the direction that I'd like to go. And that's what I done, man. I just went for it.
Yeah, I said to burn the boats. It's pretty much the literal definition of it, right? Like if you stayed with the police for a year leave without pay, you feel like you've got them to lean on a bit. Like if
Yeah,
things don't go well, oh, it's all good, I can just go
exactly.
back to the cops. Whereas if you actually throw in the towel there and say, I'm shutting up shop, not going to be with the police anymore, and put all your
Mm,
eggs in one basket, you really got to make it work. You got a kid at the time, your wife,
exactly. Yeah,
and so you got no option really. So it pushes you to when you're cornered. It's amazing what you can do. Hey, when you
exactly,
actually
man.
against the
Because
wall.
there is like you'd know yourself in the PT and the coaching thing. It's not always. I mean, now I'm very lucky. I've got to say, the last couple of years, I'm very busy and it's mad. But early on there's a couple of weeks where it's a few people calling sick. They're not rocking up, and so there could have been a couple of times where I'm like, oh, it's not very consistent. I better play it safe, and I'll just where like when that was happening, I'm going, nah, bang, 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 trying other things, marketing, doing things to make sure that it did work. And then, yeah, just slowly, slowly, like anything, if you keep going with it, it just builds.
I guess
Mm.
what tips would you have for anyone who is actually making that transition? Maybe they're in a career they don't like and they're actually interested in getting into whether it be online coaching or face to face PT.
Yeah, well, specifically going into personal training.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
both from both sides of the coin. Like if someone's going into face to face PT, but
yeah.
they've got an ambition to go
I,
online.
I did do, and I still do a fair bit of face to face, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I do. Number one for me, like you asking that question, is for any business is be a good person, man. Like with whatever you do, don't be greedy and be a good person because initially, I mean, you might get a couple things here and there, but it's always going to be word of mouth that gets around. Um, and if you want people to support you long term, they've got to like who you are as a person. I think that's a really big one.
Mm.
Um, is just
Reputation.
reputation, but that's the word I'm looking for because that goes a long way. I feel like, um, and there's a lot of good people out there who might not even need something, but they'll support you for whatever reason, and then they're talking to someone else, and it slowly gets around. But for coaching and training specifically, I feel like, especially those initial times, I mean, always, but initially, is people want results. So it's extra effort that you've got to put in, especially starting out now to get those transformations and things like that going. People want results. And it's not going to happen by just writing up a quick little diet or just
Something, yeah.
giving an easy training program. You actually need to put in the effort. You need to check on the people, make sure that they're sticking to the plan. I'm very big on keeping people accountable. So that's why with me, I will do weekly check-ins, even though in terms of progression, it can take fortnightly is probably more realistic to see changes happening.
That realistic change, yeah.
Exactly, like even longer, really. But the weekly check-ins for me is,
More of a mindset thing.
man, it's a good one because it's going to negate stop people from they know they're going to get the check in with you, whether they're getting measured face to face or they're sending you something across. If they're actually sticking it to it or they're going to give it a go, they're going to feel guilty if they go grab a piece of cheesecake or whatever they know they're going to come get measured. That's going to stop them from doing that.
Mm.
And then a couple of weeks of that, they stay consistent enough. They come through, they do the check in, and they're actually going to see that it's working. And then that keeps them on the ball because obviously they want to keep getting those results. And then consecutively, week after week after week, those little changes end up big changes, and then that's what it is, man. I think it's keeping them accountable for those first few weeks to see that it's actually working. They stay consistent, and then from there they'll see the results, and that G's them up to keep going.
In the weeks leading out up to the AMB
Yeah,
nationals competition. But I've also seen some of your other clients on some of your stories also using this technology. Is this
yeah,
something you use frequently? And do you want to just talk about maybe why you're doing that?
yeah. So the newbie machine,
Yeah.
it's a game changer, man. Like, I mean, look, you can
You're just kind of
get
looking
the
at like what exercises They might get the most motor unit recruitment
Yes.
during certain exercises and
Yeah.
maybe movement patterns, whether they're doing like
Move,
yeah.
movement patterns, yes. And the mind muscle connection's a big one, man. As you know yourself, there's certain body parts that we can activate, and there's other body parts that you can still activate, but not as well. So with the newbie machine on, it just fires up and it just shows you how it should be feeling when you're doing these movements. So say you do a chest workout, you don't feel your chest. One, you're going to be recruiting new muscle fibers just from the neural pathways that it puts you on through the AC current, but also you've felt what it should be feeling like when you're going through the movement. The next time you train chest, it's still in your mind. So the next time you train chest, you're still getting the results from the machine because the mind muscle connection's still there. Um, a lot of people, man, and back too. I feel like back's a big one for
Yeah.
people. I don't know if it's just because you can't see it or what it is, but yeah, they'll do one session, then the next time they've trained back, they're like, oh man, I still like could feel the connection, yeah, from using the machine because it's been able to spark up in their brain how it should be feeling when they're doing the movement and engaging the actual lats, how they're supposed to be engaged. Because you know how it is. Once you do a big one with bodybuilding is getting guys to get their lats out. I feel like for me as a coach, initially it's trying to get guys just to stand tall or get their lats out because a lot of guys they overflex and they end up locked back.
Yeah.
It just takes one time for them to actually flare the lats out and like and then you're set. They can they can just do it straight away. But before that, it can take a little bit of time for them to actually relax the delts and actually get the lats. And then once they do it once, you set them. Yes.
It's like someone's been doing a cable row for might have been a year or two, and they haven't been executing it correctly and really targeting the
Exactly.
muscles
Yeah.
as they should be. And once they get those cues, whatever it may be, like I like to pretend there's a string between your elbow and the floor, and as you come back,
Yes.
you're not pulling back, you're pulling down, or you're scraping
Down.
your elbow along the ground. And just little things like that you might have picked up through using the EMG. Actually, the next day they wake up and they go, shit, like I'm sore. They've had that DOMS for a week or two because they've never actually stimulated the muscles
Yes.
correctly, right?
That's perfect. Exactly right. Yeah.
And so is that something you employ in like the initial consultation phase or in the early stages with a client just to work out what is working, what isn't working, and maybe the way you can kind of tweak their training techniques
Yeah.
a little bit to get the best out of their training? Is that the reason behind why you're kind of using the newbie machine?
Yeah. Well, actually, it's good for injuries too, man, because I had, as you're aware,
Shoulder
my
injury.
shoulder.
Yeah.
So it does free up. I wasn't able to press for when I say press, shoulder press above my head for a good few years there. And then went out and seen Jimmy Sadek, who was the one that
Yeah.
I linked up with to get the machine. I went and done a few sessions on there for myself. I wasn't even getting the machine for myself, and then I seen how well it worked, and it freed me up because there's different. To be honest, there's different modalities and frequencies that you can use on the machine that I haven't even looked into because
Yeah.
it can be used a lot for rehab. I specialize more in the hypertrophy side and obviously for the bodybuilding and the mind muscle connection and things like that. So I got the machine after seeing how well it worked for me with that. And then I started seeing the results in the connection. And because then when I done my shoulder, I'm like, oh, I might try it on because my chest has been my weak point from the shoulder injury. And I was like, oh, wow. And then just doing that sold me. And I'm like, oh, I ended up
Yeah.
getting one that I could
So
use for my clients.
can you be a bit more explicit in terms of what you actually took from it? Like what actual things did you find out you were probably doing wrong with your training and how you fixed it?
Well, without going too technically into it, it was just there's a 500 frequency on there, which is known as the rehab type frequency, and it just kind of bro, to put it easily, I was never, even now, to put this one here back. I can't. I can't get this left one back just for how the surgery was done.
Externally rotate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But when the machine is on me for whatever reason, I can press above my head. Back then, now I can do it. It's just the rotation's still not there, but there's no pain. Back then, I was still getting pain.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy said, "Look, just try this. Chuck the machine on the 500 frequency." I had one plate on there. There was no weight. And then I chucked it on, and I was pressing above my head. I'm like, "What the fuck?" He's
Right.
like, "Yeah, bro." And then I just slowly kept building up, and so that wasn't necessarily something I was doing wrong. That just helped free up the injury, and then from there, it actually helped strengthen up the stabilizer muscles and open up. I was getting a little bit better range, and then that helped with my recovery and being able to do other movements. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
kind of wondered too how much of it, like I haven't looked into the data too much, but how much of it is also like a placebo thing? Like
yeah,
you have the electrode. Obviously, if there's a placebo benefit, there's
yeah,
benefit at the end of the day. But like
yeah. Because
you put the electrodes on, and you're
yeah,
doing it, and you think, oh, this is going to help me with my range. So you're automatically sort of working now through a pain-free range of motion.
yeah. Well, there could be the definitely placebo. It's a big thing as well, man. But for me, I actually couldn't get my hand above there, so it was helping me get that range. Whether part of it was the placebo too, or um, because of the stimulation and the actual feeling too. So, because I had the injury for a while, I'm preempting the pain that's about to come normally without the machine on. So, with the machine on, you can feel a little bit of a buzz, which would have made me which also makes you think about something
Con-
other than the injury while
Yeah.
it's going. So that can be a part of it too, definitely.
There's a massive psychological component to people's experience with pain. I think I spoke a
Yes.
little bit about it with Eric Helms, I think, earlier in the podcast. But yeah, there is like that the way you perceive your pain, the way you think about your pain,
Yeah.
your
And because of
association with the
yeah,
trauma influence how what
because you've had it there, like for my shoulder, I had it there for many years. So I'm just used to. Before this, I was used to just getting in the machine, locking. I'm like, oh, here we go. So I'd set up a specific way and get in, and like you kind of preempt a thing. So what you can do, I've done with other niggly injuries myself too, and then I kind of can get myself out of it. But this is obviously a bad one. Is yeah, you kind of brace yourself in a way because you preempt the pain, and then that bracing could also lock up the joint in itself, and then stuff up your range. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying.
it's kind of like what we spoke about before with the example of a rugby league player injuring their ACL and coming back into full contact and thinking about the injured knee. So you're kind of saying that the electrodes and the way they were stimulating the muscle on both sides created more of an association with you about like connecting with the muscle during the movement as opposed to
Yeah,
focusing on potentially
yeah,
the pain or the actual site that was or the shoulder that was injured.
exactly. Yeah, and then from that, you're using it, and as you'll know, the circulation there can helps with recovery. I'm using muscles now that I've kind of been um,
Like
that
they
have
get
laid dormant
tight.
there, locked away because I didn't want to pinch
Yeah.
it or do
Yeah.
whatever. And now I'm just with a lighter weight, but I had one plate on there for a few weeks, was doing normally would be doing nothing. But then the DOMs that we spoke about before, sore as like my delts were cooked. I'm like, what? I haven't felt that in ages. And then slowly built up. And then
And so that's what
before I knew it, I was
I think
chucking
that's
the
what
stack on.
yeah. I think that's what I was more interested in was like was there did you find like say maybe you weren't connecting with your left deltoid as much, like medial deltoid as much with like a lateral raise using a dumbbell versus using a cable versus using maybe like for instance like the Landis machine? Like did you find any specific exercises where you weren't getting that activation and that you made a transition to maybe some other variations that helped you?
I tried all of them for the injury specifically. Yeah, I did though, man. I did build it up. Because I'd done I'd still done all those shows we were talking about with the A and B and everything. That was with the shoulder injury.
Yeah.
It was just that I wasn't able to press or do any of those movements for all those years. So I found ways to work around it, and I still in those shows, my delts weren't necessarily weak. It's just that I think that they could have been better because I wasn't using full range in movements. But exactly like you said, I was to kick off. I was just getting dumbbells and just working in. So I'd do like 15 reps there, boring as, but it was still working. And then I'd move it to the side and do 50, like with 2 kilos, and then slowly just building up. And I just found exercises that didn't aggravate the injury, and then I was just doing volume on those, and it's still. I mean, it still grew. It's just that, yeah, I feel like I didn't get the delts up until I was able to actually use that more full range and a bit more weight behind it.
Well, that initial 15 degrees of shoulder abduction is all supraspinatus anyway, which is important for like shoulder stability and that kind of
Yeah,
thing. So, like, all parts of that range are important, right? And that's one thing I'm sure you're learning now. And like the way that you execute movements is really important, not just the weight you're lifting, the tempo you're lifting with, the set, like the time between sets where you're resting.
yeah,
A lot of it comes back just to the movement. And you can get a lot more out of lifting a weight like with half the load if you're doing it properly
definitely.
versus stacking the weight up and just pushing weight for the sake of doing it. Like, when do you think that kind of clicked for you? And
That's one thing. Talking about that's one thing that it did do, and that's what and other niggly injuries has done for me as well. Is really make me dial. It made me dial it back and do what you just said there. It's even because chest was a big one, man. I couldn't train much, and which is why I feel like that was my weak point for many years. Is because I couldn't um, get that contraction there. Just how the surgery was done, it was actually um,
I
the
think Aaron
rear
Pilates
labrum
had the
was
same issue.
pardon.
Aaron Pilates had the same issue.
Yeah. I seen
Yeah.
he's had some shoulder injuries. I didn't know specifically what, but it was the chest, man, and it really made me pull everything right back, strengthen up. Obviously, the rhomboids, the lower back, lock in, nice and slow, feel the movement. Because I had to do that. If I wasn't locking in and doing it slowly and squeezing everything, then the shoulder would pinch. But not
Yeah.
only that, it made me actually use the muscle that I was trying to work because if I went heavy and just smacked it out, I was in pain. So it did make me force me to dial everything back because before that, I was young and a little bit of ego lifting was there. I'll be honest.
I think
Um,
I've done it. Everyone's done it, you know. I
yeah,
think the
so it
difference,
made me kind of dial everything back and then relearn and find specific ways to be able to activate the muscle without aggravating it, and then being able to slowly build on it. Then
mm. And so what I want to ask you about is the transition to the IFBB. Like everyone knows, especially within the A and B, you're a promoter out west now.
yeah,
You've been part of the fabric for years there with Jen and the A and B, and they all love you. Um,
yeah.
what was it that kind of made you want to make the switch to the IFBB? I think a lot of bodybuilders would go through that kind of conversation with their friends, family, their coaches, training partners, whatever it may be, about making the switch. You know where your potential lies,
Yeah,
an untested federation of IFBB. Was that the allure for you? Like you had accomplished pretty much everything you could in natural bodybuilding, and that's why you made the switch. What was your kind of process
yeah.
thinking there?
I just wanted, and I still want to see how far I can take it. I mean, um, yeah, I got to the kind of top you could say there in the natural side, but I do believe I could have got improved even more. I won't say I got to
See,
um, what's a
like natural ceiling or
ceiling.
physiology.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I probably could have improved a few more percent on that, definitely. Um, but I just wanted to see where my body can go, man. Just to be honest, all the guys that I'd watched and that I wanted to look like, and um, that I was looking in the magazines when I was younger. the whole IFBB, and
Mm.
I just had that in me, man. I just there's not. I just wanted to see how far I could go, push my body,
It's funny.
and
There's no do-over, right? You can't
I
do life
don't.
again. You can't do life again. If you had a second life and it's like you could respawn and come back and trial, performance enhancing drugs and see how far you can push yourself. There's no opportunity for that. So you really got to make a conscious decision too about like, do you want to have
Yeah,
any regrets when you get older? And you want to see like all
exactly.
those shots you've taken with out at
Yeah,
Riley's gym with Daniel Rapetti and those kind of like guys. Like,
yeah,
like you look back on those, you show your kids those in 10 years,
yeah,
15 years time, they're going to go, look what my dad did.
yeah. And look, man, I'm proud to be able to say that I did do like I competed naturally for 10 years, and I did give it a good crack there. And I'm happy to be able to say that I got the national title naturally because, again, we go back to not caring about what other people say straight away now. IFBB, you'll hear some guys, oh, yeah, but he's taking this and he's doing that. I kind of like that I can have that to say back, oh, look, boys, I also done naturally. I've done this, and that. It's not just me taking that. Why I've been able to achieve this physique. I've done that, and now I'm just going to see how far I can go this way. Um, and I like to think I still do it in a healthy manner. Look, obviously you can dive a lot deeper into it. IFBB, you can't say it's healthy, but with the parameters that there are and the way I go about things, I make sure that I do everything that I can to do it in the healthiest way possible. If that's one way to say it.
Yeah, I see on your stories you're taking your fasting blood glucose readings, your blood
Yeah,
pressure, you're doing your fasted cardio,
yeah.
you're taking all your supplements and things like that. And I think, um, you
I'm
know,
very big on that, man.
we,
I'm very yeah.
yeah, we,
I'll get my bloods done every 8 to 10 weeks, whether that's whatever phase I'm in, and even more when I'm in prep. Um, I feel like if you're, I'd just to get it out there for anyone that is actually going to listen and they're thinking about going that route. A big one for me is if your liver and kidney and your organs aren't functioning properly. It's not even about um, it's one thing is about health. Yeah, obviously we want to stay healthy, but two, the reason that you're taking this extra supplements and things is to get the results. Yeah, if your liver and kidney and your organs and things like that aren't functioning properly, the supplements that you're putting in aren't going to be utilized to their full capabilities. So for me, it's you got to make sure that all these things are working properly. One, for your health, and two, if you want to get you're taking the risk to do it, you want to be at least getting the results from it. Yeah,
yeah, and I think like I've spoken a lot about this with Dean McKillop in his episode. So I would say, if anyone wants more of an insight into some of the philosophies he has around coaching his athletes, I'd say
yeah,
jump back into that episode and have a listen to what we spoke about there. But I think from a more, you know, broader perspective, I think you're passionate about what you do and
yeah.
you love the life you live. You love what you do, coaching, bodybuilding. You love your family. I think, and the way you do it, you try and control the controllables. And
Exactly.
in the sport of bodybuilding, like the IFBB, there really is no way to get to the top in whether it be the 212 open category unless you're taking drugs. Like it's just simply impossible. There's no way, right? And if you
Yeah,
want to get there, if that's your dream, that's your ambition, that's your decision. And I think it's funny how a lot of people, I think, in this society scrutinize steroids and these kind of drugs more so than they do all the recreational drugs,
yeah,
your
yeah.
cocaine and ice and like ecstasy and all these. And the amount of people that die from taking those drugs each year,
Oh,
and you only have to look on the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare online and just see, obviously there is an issue with young gym goers not knowing what they're doing with performance
Definitely.
drugs. But the problem is often, I think, amplified just because of how popularized bodybuilding is on social media and that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm sure you see a lot of that now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think it goes back to even the movies and that negative stigma that they put. And I've said it before. Like obviously, we know it's not healthy from going down that route, but you can take healthier options the way you
yeah,
do it.
yeah,
But with the movies and like you'll see in some of the NFL movies, you see a guy and he's got a thing of he's normal. He'll take a couple of Stanozol or D-bol like tablets, and then like 2 hours later he's going psycho and trying to bash people,
yeah.
like things like that. I'm like far out, and then obviously mainstream and people are watching things like that, and the media love it too, just to gas it up and a big story to talk about. They do things like that, and then that's why there's that bad
Yeah.
kind of vibe around it too, I guess.
I think you see, like, I don't know whether it be in the United Kingdom or Europe, there's certain clubs where they're actually testing people's drugs within the club to make sure that they're safe. And I think you could almost compare that in a similar sense to someone who's getting their bloods done. They are taking performance enhancing drugs, but they're crossing their T's, they're dotting their I's, they're doing everything necessary to ensure they maintain the best possible health while doing so.
Yeah,
I think if it's your decision, to go out partying and to enjoy yourself and to take those recreational drugs because you want to have a good time, that's on the individual, right? And their parents or their friends when they make that decision. But they're doing it for a certain purpose, right? And you're trying to achieve elite status in the
yeah,
world of bodybuilding. And really the only person that can make that decision is you. And if you love what you do, well, who's got it? Whose opinion matters at the end of the day. So yeah, I've got a
that's
lot of
it, man.
respect for you, mate. And you're still in the natural
I
bodybuilding
appreciate it.
space because of
I
the
love it.
because of the character you are, but
Yeah,
and the thing is, like, you build yourself up to a level where you can compete with the best of the best naturally. And
yeah,
I think that would warrant you then going to the next step. If you don't have the genetics naturally, what makes you think on pushing gear you can then go do really well in the IFBB? So I think
yeah.
for someone to get to your standard naturally, I think the jump definitely makes more sense, and the way you've explained it is definitely much more respectable. I
I
think.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it was a
Nah, that's
pleasure to
mad.
chat with you, mate. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Nah, thank you very much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Strength Connect podcast. If you enjoyed listening, please don't forget to rate the podcast or subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips from each episode. Alternatively, you can follow us on all social media platforms using the handle @StrengthConnect.